He took a dip into the Triveni, the confluence of the Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati, the chief of the sacred place, and bowed their head to the sage Bharadwaja. Bharadwaja reverently received his order and blessings, and protesting himself, made much supplication, accompanied by expert guides, and taking the whole host along with him, he proceeded on his journey with his thought directed towards Chitrakuta. Holding Sri Rama's friend Guha by the hand, he walked along like the very incarnation of love. He had no shoes and no umbrella over his head, and his love, self discipline, austerity, and piety were unfazed. He asked his friend Guha to give an account of the wandering of the Lakshmana, Sri Rama, and Sita, while Guha narrated the same in soft accent. When he saw the spots where Sri Rama had rested and the trees under which he had halted, the emotion within his breast could not be repressed. The gods who beheld his conditions rained down flower, the earth grew soft, and the road became pleasant. The clouds afforded him shades all along, and a delightful and the excellent breeze kept blowing. The journey was not so agreeable to Sri Rama as it proved to be for Bharata. The numberless beings, both animate and inanimate, that saw the Lord or were seen by the Lord in their turn had been rendered fit for the highest estate. The sight of Bharata now finally rid them of the disease of the transmigration. This was no great thing for Bharata, whom Sri Rama ever cherished in his heart. Even they who utter the name of Rama only once in this world not only reach the other shore themselves but are also able to take others across. As for Bharata, he is dearly loved by Sri Rama and is his younger brother too. No wonder then that the journey should be delightful to him. Siddhas, a class of celestial beings, saints and great sages, observed thus and rejoiced at heart to behold Bharata. Indra, the chief of God, was filled with anxiety when he saw Bharata's power. The world is good to the good and vile to the vile. He said to his preceptor, the sage Brahaspati, something must be done, my lord, to prevent the meeting between Rama and Bharata. Sri Rama is scrupulous by nature and is won by love, while Bharata is an ocean of affection. What has already been accomplished thus threatened to be undone. Therefore, finding out some stratagem, let us use it as remedial measure. Hearing his words, the preceptor of the gods smiled and realized that, though endowed with a thousand eyes, Indra was really blind, lacked discriminate. He said, if anyone practices deception on a devotee of Sri Rama, the Lord of Maya, it requires on the artificer itself, himself. It requires on the artificer himself. O King of the gods, last time we did something, knowing that it had Sri Rama's tactic approval, but by resorting to some underhand means, this time we are sure to meet with disaster. Listen, O Lord of the God, it is the Sri Rama's nature not to be angry at any offense against himself, but he who sins against his devotee surely consumed in the fire of his wrath. The story is well known both in the world as well as in the Vedas. The sage Durvasa knows this glorious trait of Sri Rama's character. Who is there who loves Rama as Bharta's loves? World repeats Rama's name where Rama repeats name of Bharta. Never harbor in your mind, O Lord of the immortals, even the thought of frustrating the purpose of devotee of Sri Rama, the chief of the Raghu line, for the same will bring you infamy in this world, sorrow in the next, and the series of woe in your day-to-day life. Hear, O advice, O King of gods, a devotee is supremely dear to Sri Rama. He is gratified through service rendered to his devotee and bears great enmity to those who are hostile to them. Even though Lord is alike to all without either love or anger, and received neither sin nor virtue, neither merit nor demerit, and even though he has made fate the ruling factor in this world, so that one reaps what one sows, yet according as one possesses the heart of a devotee or an unbeliever, he appears to be impartial or hostile in his dealing, so devoid of attributes, unattached, free from pride, and ever unchanged. Sri Rama has assumed reform with attributes yielding to the love of his devotee. Sri Rama has ever respected the wish of his devotee. The Vedas and Puranas, as well as saints and gods, can bear testimony to this. Bearing in this is in mind, give up perversity and cherish ideal love for Bharta's feet. Sri Rama's devotees are actively engaged doing good to others, share the sorrow of others, and are compassionate by nature. And Bharta is very creased jewel of devotee. Therefore, be not afraid of him, O rulers of gods. The Lord is true to his word and a friend of the God, while Bhartas obeys Sri Rama's order. You are feeling uneasy only because you are dominated by self interest. Bharta is not to blame at all. It is your ignorance which is responsible for your uneasiness. The chief of God Indra was overjoyed at heart to hear these valuable words of the heavenly preceptor, and his depression of spirit was gone. The Lord of Celestial therefore rained down flowers and gladly began to extol Bharta's noble dispositions. In this way Bharta went on his way, which Seiks and the Siddhas were filled with envy at the sight of his condition. Whenever he heaved a long sigh with the word Rama on his lips, it seemed as if love overflowed on all sides. Even adamants and the stones melted at his words. The love of the citizens was beyond description. Halting at one place on this side, the party arrived on the bank of the Yamuna, and Bharta's eyes were filled with tears as he gazed on his dark water, which reminded him of Sri Rama's swarthy form. At the sight of the lovely stream that possessed the same hue as the person of the Sri Rama, chief of Raghuline, Bharta and his party were plunged into the ocean of grief on account of separation from Sri Rama, and were saved from drowning only by boarding the bark of discretion. That day they halted on the bank of the Yamuna. Everyone was provided with comforts according to the occasions. In course of the night, innumerable boats of the untold varieties came from all the ghats. At daybreak, the whole party crossed the river in the single trip. Everyone was pleased with the service rendered by the Nishada chief in this behalf. After performing their ablutions and bowing their head to the river Yamuna, the two brothers Bharta and Shatrugna resumed their journey with the Lord of Nishada. At the head of the line, in chosen vehicle, travelled the principal Sikhs Vamadeva, Vashishta, and so on, followed by the royal host. Next followed the two royal brothers, both on foot. Their ornaments, costumes, and style of dress were all the very simple. They were accompanied by their servants, friends, and the minister's son, and went with their thought fixed on Lakshmana, Sita, and Lord of Raghu. They lovingly saluted each and every place where Sri Rama had either encamped or rested awhile. Hearing the news, the men and women who lived by the roadside left their household work and ran after the royal travellers, and having seen their comely form and affection, they all rejoiced on attaining the reward of their life. One woman lovingly said to another, "Friend, can they be Rama and Lakshmana or not? Their age, constitutions, complexion, and comeliness of form are the same, dear companion. Their amiability and affection are also similar, and their gait too resembles that of Rama and Lakshmana. Only their dress is not the same, and they are not accompanied by Sita. my friend, and an army complete in its four limbs, that is, horse and foot, elephants and carrot, is marching before them. Moreover, they do not wear a cheerful countenance, and their heart is heavy with sorrow. This difference make me doubt their identity with Rama and Lakshmana friend. Her argument appealed to the rest of the women. They said there is none so clever as she. Applauding the latter and admiring the truth of her remarks, another woman spoke in sweet accents. She lovingly narrated the whole episode as to how the festivities in connection with Sri Rama's installation had been obstrued. She has begun to praise Bharata's amiability, affection, genial disposition, and good luck. Journeying on foot, living on fruit, and relinquishing the sovereignty bestowed by his father, Bharata is proceeding to pursue the chief of Raghuline to return. Who can equal Bharata today? Bharata's brotherly affection, devotion, and conduct dispels the woe and evil of those who talk or hear of them. Uh, Whatever may be said with regard to them, dear friend, will be quite inadequate. It is no wonder that a brother of Bharata, Rama, should be like that. All of us who have seen Bharata and his younger brother have become praiseworthy among women. Hearing of his virtue and seeing his forlorn state, they lamented, surely he is not fit son for such a vile mother as Kaikeyi. Someone said the queen mother Kaikeyi is not to blame for at all. All that is accomplished by the God who is so favorably disposed to us. Of what account we are vile mother exclude both from secular Vedic rites and pure by birth as well as by doing, who dwell in the aqueous region woodland and is a Raj village and are the worst of our class, that we should have such a sight, which is a reward of great religious merit. There was a similar rejoicing and wonder in every village. It seemed as if a celestial tree had sprung up in a desert. At the sight of Bharta, the good fortune of people by the roadside manifested itself as though by the will of the Providence Prayaga had been brought within easy reach of the people of the Shimla. Hearing his own praise as well as Sri Rama's virtue, Bharata went on his way, thinking of Sri Rama. Whenever he happened to see holy waters, he bathed in them, and whenever he caught sight of the hermitage of a temple, he made obeisance to it, asking in his heart only one boon, that is, devotion to the lotus feet of the Sita and Rama, whomsoever he met, be he a Kola or any other forester, or even if he were an anchorite, a religious student, a recluse, or a hermit, he would salute him and inquire in which part of the forest were Lakshmana, Rama, and Videha's daughter Sita. They told him all the news of the Lord, and the sight of Bharata obtained the reward of their life. Those persons who said they had seen the Lord doing well were counted as dear as Sri Rama and Lakshmana themselves. Thus, in polite phrases, he would make inquiries from all and hear the story of Sri Rama's forest life. Halting that day is a suitable place, he resumed his journey early next morning, invoking the Lord of Raghu just like Bharata. Everyone who accompanied him lodged for a sight of Sri Rama. Auspicious omens occurred to everyone. They had happy throbbing in their eyes and arms. Bharata and his host rejoiced at the thought that they would be able to see Sri Rama, and the sting of their sorrow would come to an end. Each indulged in his own fancy, and all went intoxicated with the wine of love. Their limbs were getting out of control, their legs tottered, and they spoke words in an incoherent way due to the emotion. Sri Rama's friend Guha presently pointed to Bharata, the creased jewel of the mountain Kamadgiri, which were naturally charming, and the vicinity of which one of the bank of the river Payasni dwelt. The two brothers Sri Rama and Lakshmana, along with Sita, catching sight of the mountain, all fell protest on the ground with the cries of glory to Sri Rama, the life of the Janaka's daughter. The royal host was so overwhelmed with emotion as though the chief of the Raghuline had turned back towards Ayodhya. Bharata's love at the time was more than Shesha, the thousand-headed serpent could describe. It is an unapproachable to the poet as the bliss of absorption into the Brahma, to those who are tainted by egoism and mindness. Being all overpowered by love for the chief of the Raghuline, they had covered a distance of only 4 miles. By the time of the sunset, perceiving a suitable site and water close by, they halted, and at the close of the night, the beloved of the Sri Rama resumed his journey. There, Sri Rama awoke while it was yet dark. Sita saw in a dream that very night, as if Bharata had come with the retinue, and that his body was tormented by the agony of the separation from his Lord. All who had accompanied him were sad at heart, miserable and afflicted, while her mother-in-law she found changed in appearance. On hearing of Sita's dream, Sri Rama's eyes filled with tears, and he who rids others to their sorrow becomes sorrowful. This dream, Lakshmana bodes no good. Somebody will break terrible bad news. Saying so, he took his bath with his brothers and, worshipping the enemy of Tripura, Lord Shiva, paid his respect to holy men. After adoring the gods and reverencing the hermit, he sat down gazing to the north. There was dust in the air, and a host of birds and beasts had taken to flight in panic and were making their way to the Lord's hermitage. Says Tulsidas, he stood up when he saw this and wondered in his heart what could be the reason. Presently the Kolas and Kirtas came and told him all the news. When he heard the delightful word, he felt overjoyed at heart. A thrill ran through his body, and his eyes, that resembles the Atmal lotus, says Tulsidas, filled with the tears of affection. Sita's lord became anxious the very next morning. The what can be the reason of the Bharta's arrival? Then some. Then somebody. He, Then somebody came and spoke to him thus: He has with him no small army, complete in its 4 limbs, that is, foot, horse, elephants, and carrots. Hearing this, Sri Rama felt much disturbed. On the one hand, there was his father's commands; on the other, his regards for his younger brother Bharata. Realizing Bharata's disposition in his heart, the Lord found no propositions to fix his mind upon. Then he consoled himself with the thought that Bharata was submissive, good, and reasonable. Lakshmana saw that the Lord was troubled at heart and spoke what prudence demanded on the occasion. I make bold, my Lord, to say something unasked, but a servant ceased to be impertinent if his impertinence is not inopportune. You, my master, are the crease jewel of the all wise, yet I, your servant, tell you my own mind. You, my master, are loving by nature and grueless of heart, and a storehouse of the amiability and the affection. You love and trust everyone and know all to be just like yourself. Fools give to the pleasure of sense, are seized with the infatuation on attaining power and reveal their true nature. Bharata was righteous, good, and wise, and his devotion to the Lord's feet is known to the whole world. But now that he had attained Sri Rama's your position as the ruler of the Ayodhya, even he has transgressed the bonds of rightness. Finding an adverse situation and knowing that you are alone in the forest, this Willie and the Big Brother had plotted an evil design, and after making due preparation, he has come to make his sovereignty secure. Planning all sorts of wicked schemes, the two brothers have collected an army and marched here. If they had no willy intention in roughery at heart, who should like to bring carrots, horses, and elephants? But why should one blame Bharta for nothing when we know that anyone in this world would be driven mad on attaining sovereignty? The moon god committed adultery with his wife of his guru, the sage Bharasmati, while Nausha mounted a palki borne by the Brahmins, and there was none so vile as King Vena, an enemy of the established usage as well as Vedic injunctions. King Shastrabahu, Indra, the lord of Kaleshtar, and King Trishanku, father of the Harishchandra, each of these was not brought into the disrepute by the intoxication of the kingly power. Bharata has resorted to right expedients for one who should leave no trace of one's enemy or debt in any case, but he has made one mistake in that he has despised Sri Rama yourself as forlorn, and he will realize his mistake with vengeance today when he beholds Sri Rama you indigent face on the battlefield. Even as he said so, he forget his love of property, and the tree of his belly goes spirit burst into the flowers in the shape of horripilations. Adoring the Lord's feet and placing their dust on his head, too he spoke, revealing his own real and the national might. Pray do not take offense, my lord, if I tell you that Bharata has provoked me not a little. After all, how long shall I endure this and restrain my patience when my lord yourself is with me and the bow in my hand? A Kshatriya warrior by caste and born in the race of the Raghu, I know throughout the world as a servant of the Sri Rama yourself. How then can I put up with such insult? What is so low as the dust on a road that if you were to kick it up, it would rise to your head? As he rose and with joined palm asked leave to meet Bharata in an encounter, it seemed as if the heroic sentiment itself had awoke from a sleep. Binding up the matted lock on his head and fastening the quiver to his waist, he strung his bow and took an arrow in his hand. Let me distinguish myself as a servant of Sri Rama today and teach Bharata a lesson in a battle, reaping the fruit of their contempt for Sri Rama. Let the two brothers sleep on the couch of the battlefield. It is well that the whole host has collected at one place. I shall therefore give vent to my past anger, even as a lion, the king of the beasts, tears to pieces a herd of elephants, or just as a hawk clutches and carries off a lark, so shall I lightly overthrow on the field Bharata as well as younger brother Shatrughna in all their host. Even if Lord Shankara come to his aid, I swear by Sri Rama that I will kill him in battle. Sri Rama. Seeing Lakshmana speak with such vehemence and fury, and hearing his solemn oath, all the spheres trembled with fears, while their rulers were anxious to flee away in panic. The world was seized with terror, and the voice was heard in the air, extolling the enormous strength of Lakshmana's arms. Who can tell, dear child, nay, who even knows your might and glory? But before doing anything, one must judge whether it is right or wrong. Then everyone would approve of it. They would act impulsively and repent afterwards, are anything but wise. So declared the Vedas and the sages. On hearing this voice from heaven, Lakshmana felt abashed, but both Sri Rama and Sita greeted him and said, what you have said, dear Lakshmana, is sound wisdom. The intoxications of kingly power is the worst of all, but of those rulers who have tasted it, they alone lost their head, who have never waited on an assembly of saints. As for Bharata, I tell you, Lakshmana is the Shri Ramayana, Shri Ramayana, Shri Ramayana, Shri Ramayana, Shri Ramayana. Lakshmana in the whole of the God creation. I have never seen or heard of anyone so good as he. Bharata would never be intoxicated with sovereign power, even if he attained to the position of Brahma, Vishnu, or Shiva. What can a few drops of khajal even splits the ocean of milk? Darkness may swallow the midday sun, and sooner may be heaven be absorbed into the cloud, or a jar-born sage Agastya, who is stated to have drunk of the ocean of the in a single draught, be drowned in the water collected in a cow's footprint. Nay, the earth may abandon its natural forbearance, and Mount Meru be blown away by the with puff of wind discharged from the mouth of the mosquito, but Bharata will never be intoxicated by the kingly power. O brother Lakshmana, I swear by you as well as by our father that there is no brother there is no brother so good and innocent as Bharata. God, dear brother, creates the world by mixing the milk of goodness with the water of evil, while Bharata is a swan born in the lake of the solar rays that has shifted goodness from the evil, choosing the milk of goodness and discarding the water of evil. He has illuminated the world by his glory, even as the Lord of Raghu extolled Bharata's virtues, amiability, and the noble disposition. He was drawn in the ocean of love. On hearing the speech of Sri Rama, the chief of Raghuline, and seeing his affection for Bharata, all the gods were full of applause and said, "Who else in such a gracious lord as Sri Rama? Had Bharata not been born into the world, who on this earth would have championed the cause of the virtue in its entirety? Who else than you, O Lord of the Raghu, can know Bharata's good qualities, which are unapproachable even to the race of the gods?" On hearing the words of the gods, Lakshmana, Sri Rama, and Sita were more delighted than word can tell. Their Bharata will all with all his host bathed in the sacred Mandakini, then leaving all the people on the river side and taking permission of his mother's preceptor, the sage Vashishta, and the minister Sumantra, he proceeded to the spot where Sita and Sri Rama were, taking the Nishada chief and his younger brother Shatrughna with him. As he thought of what his mother had done, he felt diffident and formed ill conjectures of every kind in his mind. God forbid that Sri Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita leave the place on hearing my name and shift to some other place, taking me to be an accomplice of my mother's. Nothing that he might do would be too much, but looking to his own self, I am sure he will forgive my fault and receive me kindly. Whether he shun me as one possessing a black heart, or welcomes me as his own servant, my own refugee, I Sri Rama's shoes, he is really a noble master, while the whole blame lies with the servant myself. The only being deserving of fame is the world are the chatka birds and the fish, who are clever in keeping ever fresh their vow of fidelity and love. Revolving these thoughts in his mind, he went on his journey, his whole body rendered powerless by diffidence and affection. The sinful act of his mother Kaikeyi dragged him back, as it were, while the strength of his devotion pressed him forward, foremost among the resolute as he was. Whenever he thought of Sri Rama's good nature, his feet moved quickly along the way. Bharata's gait at the time resembles the movement of the waterfly carries along a stream. Seeing Bharata's anxiety and affection at the moment, the Nishadachi forget all about himself. Auspicious omens occurs, and the Nishada chief, after hearing of and reflecting on them, said, "Anxiety will pass away, giving place to delight, but in the end there will be sorrow." Bharata knew every word of his servant Guha to be true, and proceeding further, he drew near to the hermitage. When he saw the forest and the mountain range, he was as glad as hungry men on getting excellent food. Just as a people tormented by the fear of calamities and afflicted by threefold troubles, as well as by the influence of the evil stars and by pestilence, feels happy on migrating to a well governor and the prosperous country. Bharata too had a similar feeling. The well governed and the prosperous country, when the evil stars, as well as the influence of their threefold trouble, pestilence feels happy. Pestilence means, what do you mean by the pestilence? Pestilence, pestilence, pestilence means pestilence, pestilence means pestilence, pestilence, pestilence means pestilence, pestilence means pestilence, a fatal epidemic disease, especially plague disease, especially pestilence, the Black Death. People, what is the pestilence? Pestilence means, the word pestilence is often translated as a plague or a disaster. Plague or a disaster. Pestilence, plague or a disaster. The Bharata knew every word of his servant Guha to be true, and proceeding further, he drew near to the hermitage. When he saw the forest and the mountain range, he was glad as hungry man is getting excellent food. Hungry man on getting excellent food, just as a people tormented by the fear of calamities, just as people tormented by the fear of calamities and afflicted by threefold troubled, as well as by the influence of the evil star, threefold troubled, a public calamity, visitors of God. A record of the six numbers, that is excessive rain, drought, calamities, excessive rain, drought, rats, locusts, parrots, and invasion by some neighboring king. Rats, locusts, parroted, some neighboring king, invasions, parrots, and parrots, and invasion, locusts. The five forms of the self-resistance are yama, as they are called. The yoga philosophy are nimiya, non-violence in thought. The the five forms of self-restraint of yama, as are the non-violence in thought, words, and deed. Non-violence in thought, words, and deed. Satya, truthfulness. Brahmacharya, the absence from the sexual in every form. Aparigraha, depriving oneself of all possessions. And Agastya, non-stealing. That is the ash, ashtiya means non-stealing. Ashtiya means non-stealing. Ashtiya is non-stealing. The five niyams constitutes the rats, calamities, just as the people tormented by the fear of calamities and afflicted by threefold trouble, as well as influence of the evil stars, and by pestilence feel happy on migrated to the well-governed and the prosperous country. Bharata too had similar feeling. The natural wealth of the forest grew while Sri Rama lived there. The natural wealth of the forest grew while Sri Rama lived there. Even as the people rejoiced on securing a good king, the charming forest was the sacred realms referred to here. Discretion was the king who ruled over it, while Dispassion was his counselor. Dispassion was his counselor. Discretion was the king. Discretion means, what do you mean by the discretion? Discretion was the discretion. Discretion was the king. Discretion was the king. Discretion meaning discretion. Discretion. Discretion means the quality of behaving or speaking in such a way as to avoid causing offense or revealing confidential information. The quality of behaving or speaking in such a way as to avoid causing offense or revealing confidential information. The quality of behaving or speaking in such a way as to avoid causing offense or revealing confidential confidential information. the afflicted, the truthful, just as a people tormented by the fear of calamities and afflicted by a threefold trouble, as well as by the influence of the evil star and by the pestilence, feel happy on migrating to a well-governed and the prosperous country. Bharata too had similar feeling. The natural wealth of the forest grew while Sri Rama lived there. Even as the troubled, the threefold, the similar, the nature, the well-governed, and Bharata too had similar feeling. The Bharata too had similar feeling. Bharata too had similar feelings. The natural wealth of the forest, the natural wealth, the natural wealth of the forest grew while Sri Rama lived there. Even as the people rejoiced on securing a good king, the rejoice on securing a good king. People rejoice on the securing a good king. The charming forest was the sacred realm referred to here. Discretion was the king who rules over it. Discretion was the king, and discretion was the counselor. The the discretion was the king. The discretion and discretion was the counselor. Discretion was the king, and discretion was the discretion. Discretion was the counselor. Discretion was the king, and the discretion was the counselor. Discretion. Discretion means, what do you mean by the discretion? Discretion means discretion. Discretion means discretion. The state or quality of being unemotional or emotionally uninvolved. Emotionally uninvolved. The state of quality of being unemotional or emotionally uninvolved. The state or quality of being unemotional or emotionally uninvolved. Unemotional and emotionally uninvolved. Emotionally uninvolved. The natural wealth of the forest grew while Sri Rama lived there. Whereas the people rejoiced on securing a good king, the charming forest was discretion was the king, and the dispassion and emotionally uninvolved. Dispassion was his counselor. Dispassion emotionally uninvolved was the counselor. Emotionally uninvolved was the counselor. Counselor emotionally uninvolved. Emotionally uninvolved was the counselor. Emotionally uninvolved is called the counselor. Emotionally uninvolved was the counselor. Counselor means emotionally uninvolved is the counselor. Emotionally uninvolved is the counselor. Counselor, a person trained to give guidance on personal or psychological problem. A person trained to give guidance on personal or psychological problem. A senior officer in the diplomatic service. A person trained to give guidance on personal or psychological problem. A person trained to give guidance on personal or psychological problem is called counselor. A person trained to give guidance on personal or psychological problem is called the counselor. The natural wealth of the forest grew while Sri Rama lived there. Even as the people, even as the people, even as the people rejoiced on securing a good king, the charming forest was the sacred lamb referred to here. Discretion was the king who ruled over it, while discretion was his counselor. Likewise, the five yama and the five niyamas constitute the champions of champions of the champions of the realms. Champion means, what do you mean by the champion? Champions of the realms. Champion. Realm means realm. Realm means the area, the kingdom is called the realms. The king, a field of dominion of activity or interest is called the realm. Field of dominion or activity or interest is called the realm. The field of dominion or activity is called the realm. The field of dominion and inactivity is called the realm. Who stayed in capital and peace and good. Five niyamas constitute the champion of the realm. Champions. Five niyamas constitute the champions of the realms. Five niyamas are religious observances about the external and internal purity. External and the internal purity. Santosha, contentment. Santoshas, tapas, religious austerity, swadhyaya, study and recitation of Vedas, and muttering of the chanting of the divine name, and Ishwar, self-surrender and meditation of God. That the tapes religious austerity, contentment, external and internal purity, santosha, contentment. The numerous hermit. Five Nivas considered champion of the realms. Mount Chitrakuta, purity. Mount Chitrakuta stood in its capital, while peace with while peace and God understanding represent the virtuous and lovely queens. While peace and good understanding represent the virtuous and the lovely queens, understanding represent the good understanding. In this way, the good king was complete in all the limbs of the four good states, and depending as he did on Sri Rama's feet, his heart was full of zeal. Having conquered King Delusions with all his host, King Discretions held undisputed sway in the capital, and joy, prosperity, and plenty regained everywhere. The numerous hermits' habitations in the forest regions were like so many towns, cities, villages, and the hamlets comprising the king's dominion. The many kings, birds of the various colors, and the beasts of the different varieties constitute his countless subjects. The hares, elephants, lion, tigers, boar, buffaloes, and bull presented a sight which attracted admiration. Shedding their natural animosities, they roamed about together like an army, complete in all its four limbs. Rills of the water flowed, and made elephant trampled. Their noise resembled the beating of the cattle drum of the various kinds. Chakrokas, chakoras, chatkas, parrots, and the cuckoos and swan made delightful and the merry concert. Swarm of bees hummed and peacock danced, which showed as it were that there was universal rejoicing in that prosperous kingdom. Creepers, trees, and blades of grass alike were blossom and bore fruit. The entire community thus wore a festive and delightful appearance. Beholding the beauty of Sri Rama, hill Chitrakuta, Bharta's heart overflowed with love, even as ascetic who has reaped the fruit of his penance rejoiced on the completion of his vows. Was 20 for the 30 days recitation. Was 5 for the 9 days recitation. Shri Ramaya Namah, Shri Ramaya Namah, Shri Ramaya. Beholding, what do you mean by the beholding? Beholding means beholding. Beholding, beholding means beholding. Beholding means beholding. Beholding means beholding means see or observe someone or something especially or remarkable or impressive nature. See or beholding, see or observe someone or something especially or remarkable or impressive nature is called the beholding. See or observe someone or something especially remarkable or impressive nature is called the beholding. See or observe someone or something especially or of remarkable or impressive nature is called the beholding. Beholding the beauty of Sri Rama's beauty. What do you mean by the beauty? Beholding, impressive. See or observe someone especially remarkable or impressive. Especially remarkable or impressive is called beauty. A combination of qualities such as shape, color, or from please to aesthetic sense. Please the aesthetic sense, especially the sight, is called the beauty. The combination of qualities such as beauty means the combination of qualities such as shape, color, or form that pleases the aesthetic sense, especially the sight, is called the beauty. A combination of qualities such as shape, color, or form that pleases the aesthetic sense, especially the sight, is called the beauty. a combination of qualities such as shape, color, or form that pleases the aesthetic sense, especially the sight, is called the beauty. Beholding the beauty of Sri Rama's hill, Chitrakuta, Bharta's heart overflowed with love, overflowed with love. Beholding the beauty of the Sri Rama's hill, Chitrakuta, Sri Rama's hill, Chitrakuta, Bharta's heart overflowed with love, even as an ascetic who had reaped the fruit of his penis, even as ascetic who has reaped the fruit of his penis, reaped the fruit of his penis, his fruit of his penis, reaped the fruit of his penis, even as an ascetic who has reaped the fruit of his fruit of reaped the fruit of his penis. Penis means, what do you mean by the penis? Penis means penis. Penis means penis. Reap the fruit of the penis. Penis means punishment afflicted on oneself as outward. A punishment is in which member of the Church Conference. Punishment inflicted on oneself as outward. Punishment of oneself. Penis. Beholding the beauty pleasing to self. Sri Rama's hill Chitrakuta, Bharta's heart overflowed with love, even as ascetic who has reaped the fruit of his penis rejoices on the completion of his woe. Rejoices of the completion of his woe. Rejoices means, what do you mean by the rejoices? Rejoices means rejoices. Rejoices means feel or show great joy or delight. Feel or show great joy or delight. Feel or show great joy and delight is called the rejoices. Feel or show great joy and delight is called the rejoices. Feel or show great joy and delight is called the rejoices. Feel or show great joy and delight is called the rejoices. Feel or show great joy and delight is called the rejoices. Feel or show great joy and delight is called the rejoices. Feel or show great joy and delight is called the rejoices. Feel or show great joy and delight is called the rejoices. Feel or show great joy and delight is called the rejoices. Feel or show great joy and delight is called the rejoices. Feel or show great joy and delight is called the rejoices. Beholding the beauty of Sri Rama's hill Chitrakuta, Bharta's heart overflowed with love, even as an ascetic who has reaped the fruit of his penis, rejoices on the completion of his woe. Rejoices on the completion of his woe. Completion of his woe. Completion means, what do you mean by the completion? Completion means completion. Completion means completion. Completion means the action or process of completing or finishing something. The action or process of completing or finishing something. The action or process of completing or finishing something. The action or process of the action or process of completing or finishing something. The action or process of completing or finishing something. The action or process of completing or finishing something is called completion. The action or process of completing or finishing something is called the completion. The action or process of completing or finishing, the state of being finished, is called the completion. Process of completing or finishing something is called the completion. That is the who reaped the fruit of his penis rejoiced on the completion of his woe. Completion of his woe. Rejoice in completion of his woe. Rejoices completion of his woe. Rejoices at the completion of his woe. The five niyamas or religious observance of socha, external and the internal purity. Santosha, contentment. Santosha means contentment. Santosha means contentment. Santosha means contentment. Contentment means contentment. Santosha. Contentment is a feeling of quiet happiness and satisfaction. Happiness, the feeling of quiet happiness and satisfaction. The feeling of quiet happiness and satisfaction. The feeling of quiet happiness and satisfaction. The feeling of quiet happiness and satisfaction is called the contentment. The feeling of quiet happiness and satisfaction is called the contentment. The feeling of quiet happiness and the satisfaction is called the contentment. The feeling of quiet happiness and satisfaction is called the Religious austerities, tapas. Religious austerities is called the tapas. Religious austerities is called the tapas. Study and recitation of Vedas, muttering of the chanting of the divine name is called the swadhyay. Study and recite tapas. Religious austerity is called the tapas. Self-surrender to meditation of God is called the in Ishvara Pradhinan. Containments, external and internal purity. External and internal purity. Santosha, contentment. External and internal purity. External and internal purity. Santosha, contentment. Tapas, religious austerity. Swadhyay, study and recitation of the Vedas and muttering of the chanting of the divine name. Pause. Shri Ramayana, Shri Ramayana. Beholding the beauty of Shri Ramasil Chitrakuta, Bharta's heart overflowed with love. Even his ascetics who have reaped the fruit of his penis rejoice on the completion of his vow. Shri Ramayana. Pause 20 for the 30 days recitation. Pause 5 for the 9 days recitation. Pause.